that reduces the demand on your power system in just a massive way. Welcome to the next Community Questions Answered video. First question is from the Blue Yeti Apex 300 Ruined My Expectation video. And just a little background, in this video, the Apex 300 actually starts and runs my air conditioner. The question is, what's the LRA, that stands for locked rotor amp, on your condenser unit with the soft start? Did you measure inrush before and after? Yes. I credit the soft start to being one of the main things that started my channel. We've got to go back to the second video I ever uploaded on my channel. That was when I installed my soft start on my air conditioner to not overload my whole home generator. At the time, I did not have my battery backup system yet. But check out the difference that this soft start makes on my AC unit. Look at that, 93.9 amps before I installed the soft starter. And then check this out, after I installed the soft starter, 22.2 amps. And that was on the first start before the soft starter actually learned how my air conditioner started. If we move it forward here, you can see the next start, it actually was even lower, 21.7 amps. The next start up here, it's going to go even lower, 19.6 amps. So yeah, shameless plug, these soft starters make a tremendous difference on your startup for your AC unit. So definitely check it out. I'll leave a link to this old video down in the description, as well as a link to the Micro Air Easy Start system in case you're interested in learning more. Next question from the Whole Home Solar Backup Under $4,000 video. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but Wattcycle upgraded the inverter from 12K to 24K. Not quite. So this is the inverter that you were talking about, which I featured in the video. And before they even started shipping out to people, they came out with the upgraded version 2. It is still a 12,000 watt inverter, but what they upgraded was the MPPT charge controller. If you take a look at my unit here, before it had 2 MPPT inputs rated to 9,000 watts each for a total of 18,000 watts, with an AC output of 12,000 watts. Well, now you can see that they've actually upgraded those to two 12,000 watt MPPT inputs for a total of 24,000 watts of PV input capability, which is just fantastic. So yeah, Wattcycle is knocking it out of the park here with even more capability on their new inverter. This is from my plug-in solar series of videos on a playlist. How or whether this plug-in solar setup can be integrated with an existing Enphase grid tie system. The answer is yes, a plug-in system can integrate with an existing solar setup. I have one. This right here is my video when I installed the Craftstrom solar kit. Now this is a different property than my own, but let me explain how this works. You want to get a system like the Craftstrom system, or like my 240 volt system with the limiter that I just released a video about, that has these CT clamps that go in your breaker panel. And then you just need to make sure that your existing Enphase system is downstream of where you put the CT clamps. So for example, this is my indoor breaker panel here. My Solar Edge system at my house actually feeds into an outdoor breaker panel next to my meter. So that would be downstream of where I am injecting my plug-in solar, which comes into this panel right here. So these limiters are going to make it so that the plug-in solar does not run and backfeed through these wires. So you don't have to worry about overloading or exceeding your grid tie solar permit amount that would be approved for your Enphase system or something like that. So if your house in this panel is not consuming enough power for the plug-in system to offset, it will just basically shut down. Your Enphase system will continue to run and backfeed and give you credit. And then when you turn on a load at your house, the plug-in system is going to be the first line of defense and will fire up first and start offsetting that load before your rooftop system or your Enphase system starts offsetting anything. So you'll be able to rack up more credits with your Enphase system, or at very least be able to supplement what your Enphase system is providing your house if you've just got tons and tons of loads. Next question from Never Hook Up This Wire on a 240 volt plug-in solar setup from my last question and answer video. For question number 1, coming from a newbie, would the 50 amp versus the 100 amp rating only come into play if you were having loads from your house in the 12,000 to 24,000 watt range? Just thinking, since my house probably maxed out loads around say 6 to 7 kW, that difference is probably not an issue. And yes, you're right. So this question is in regards to the Wattcycle inverter I just reviewed, and we're talking about its limitation of pass-through power. It can only pass through 12,000 watts. You can see the AC input is limited to 12,000 watts and the AC output is limited to 12,000 watts. And so what I said in that last video is if you have a 100 amp service and when the grid power is on, you're wanting to pass the full 100 amps through, you cannot do that with these Wattcycle inverters without having two of them in parallel. Whereas with like the EG4 12000 XP, it has a full 100 amp grid pass-through feature. However, during a grid down situation, it has a maximum of only 12,000 watts, which is 50 amps. And so yes, if you are trying to run stuff that is over 12,000 watts, you can't do that on grid or off grid without adding an additional inverter. But to your point, if you are always very conservative and you're never pulling more than 6 to 7 kilowatts, then absolutely you can derate your grid pass through to 50 amp. Try it, see if it works. I know a lot of people have no problem running everything in normal life on 50 amp service. If you start tripping breakers, then you know that you probably need to get some kind of larger pass-through capability or a second inverter or something like that. There's another question from my last question and answer video that was left in the comments. I got two golf cart batteries, 48 volt batteries connected in parallel for my solar storage. I have seen one battery at 74% state of charge pull 80 to 200 watts from the other battery, which was at 70%, thus making the difference between the battery even more. I do have auto cell balance turned on, so that might be something to do with it. Do server rack batteries with comms have the same issue? I'm debating on adding server rack batteries when I buy more storage opposed to golf cart style batteries. Nope, what you're experiencing is classic lithium iron phosphate battery behavior. I've got a full video here about this setup, my tower of power, but if anyone's ever experienced crazy balancing behavior, I certainly am a high likely candidate of that because I've got basically every battery shape and size under the sun mixed together in one system. We've got server rack batteries over here. We've got the big wall mount style batteries. We've got the stack of golf cart batteries. We've got the 4 12 volt batteries in series. And all of these are hooked up together in one giant parallel pack. So if I were to turn on these two screens here for two of these golf cart batteries, if I'm understanding your question correctly, this top one is 74% state of charge, this bottom one is 80% state of charge, and you're seeing this 74% state of charge battery actually dump power into the 80% state of charge battery, which you would think would be opposite because this top battery is technically a lower state of charge than the bottom battery. And that is more an issue of the calibration of the little state of charge indicator that you're looking at on the monitor of the battery. It's kind of just guessing. Really, the monitor for these batteries have no idea exactly what charge it is until it goes off at 0% state of charge and shuts down. Then it actually knows, okay, we're at 0 here. Or it turns off at a high state of charge at 100%, then it knows that it's 100% state of charge. But if you're constantly cycling in the middle, quite often people try to go 20 to 80% and just kind of stay in that realm, you're going to have major calibration drift on those battery monitors. So in reality, your 74% state of charge battery may actually be up at 85% state of charge, and the one that was recording 80% state of charge may be 60% state of charge. But because the battery hasn't hit fully charged levels for a little while, or fully discharged levels for a little while, it has no idea exactly what state of charge it is because you can't really tell off of voltage alone, which is basically what these are using. They'll try to guess a little bit based on power that's come in and out, but it's not a true shunt. It's just kind of a guesstimate that's built into the BMS. So I experience that all the time with my setup, and the way I kind of fix that is I make sure that I periodically, at least once every other week, and I don't even have a problem going every week, once every week, I'll try to get the battery pack all the way up to 100% state of charge. Once I get everything to 100% state of charge, then everything gets synced up again, and then it stays in pretty good sync for a little while, and then it kind of drifts a little bit again, and I've just got to charge everything back up to 100%. So give that a try and see if it makes a difference for you. The Great Solar Generator Ripoff and How to Beat It video. Great post. I can do many things to a good reasonable standard, but the volts, watts, amps, panels, series, parallel chargers has me second guessing myself all the time. The more I watch, the more I go into brain drain. If I can get your help and instruction, I will gladly pay you for your help on an hourly basis. Please let me know your thoughts. Well, I have good news for you. Any of my videos, if you open the video description, scroll down, you will find this section right here. The option that you're specifically asking about is this one right here. That's where you can book a one-on-one video consultation. It's 1 hour chunk. I always recommend to people book just a 1 hour thing. Let's see how much we can accomplish. And if you feel like the help is valuable and you need additional help beyond that, you can obviously book more time. But I've got that provision all set up. Happy to help any and all of you. You can also submit a guaranteed to be answered question in depth by me right here. But potentially before even trying any of those, you may just want to try out my dedicated video search engine here. Let's say you want to learn about mini split. You can type your query up here in the search bar, and anytime that I've talked about mini splits in either a video title, description, or transcription, it will show up in this list. It allows you to jump right to the video and watch from the beginning, or you can even jump right to different parts of the video transcript directly from the search result. So feel free and be sure and take advantage of all of these resources that I provide all of you. Keep the questions coming in the comments. That's what I draw from on all of these question and answer videos. The feedback continues to be positive. Everyone seems to be enjoying these, and I enjoy answering them. So stay tuned for more. Like, comment, share, subscribe on your way out, and we'll catch y'all next time.